Russia's surprise offensive in Vovchansk in the Kharkiv region in northern Ukraine has offered a stark reminder of the conflict on our doorstep. While politicians at home and abroad focus on the conflict in Gaza, Russia's brutal push in Ukraine continues. If Ukraine were to fall, who knows what lies next for the Western world? It might not be too long before European countries are in need of defending themselves. But what are they doing to prepare for the situation? We take a look, country by country, at what plans are in action. Let's start at home, in the UK, where we hear a lot about British military spending as it remains a key topic amongst politicians and commentators. In recent weeks, the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has promised to increase defence spending by 2.5% of GDP by the end of the decade, meaning a spend of around £87 billion a year by 2030. There's also talk of the renovation of RAF Lakenheath in Suffolk, so the airbase is once again suitable to house US-owned nuclear weapons. In 2023, a document from the US military showed how £39 million had been put to one side to build what's called a surety dormitory, a facility that's secure enough to house these weapons. Major upgrades are also being carried out on HMS Victorious, one of just 4 nuclear-capable ballistic submarines operated by the British Navy. In 2023, it arrived for work at the naval base in Devonport in Plymouth, where they'll work to extend its life into the mid to late 2030s. Now, France, in some regard, has taken a similar approach to the UK, in that it's working on its largest ever nuclear-capable submarine. The new Suffren or Barracuda class of vessel will gradually replace France's ageing fleet of 6 submarines, with 4 in development and 2 already commissioned for active duty. France is also ramping up its capabilities on land, as arms production has increased massively in the last decade. More than 4,000 companies and a dozen major groups have received a new funding from the government, stimulated by the conflict in Ukraine. France denies it's entering a so-called war economy, which includes general mobilisation and acquisition of manpower, plus a substantial reallocation of budgets to national forces. After ending a national service system in 2011 lasting 55 years, the German government is considering reintroducing a conscription for anyone turning 18 years old. Defence Minister Boris Pistorius has bemoaned a lack of soldiers among the German armed forces. He, along with the country's leading Social Democrats and Conservative parties, wants the Bundeswehr revamped to become war-ready. Pistorius is insistent the country ensures military stability and has admitted they need to recruit 20,000 soldiers a year to reach their target of around 203,000 to ensure full defensive readiness. Poland is the closest country to the conflict, as it borders all of Ukraine, Russia and Belarus. Poland joined NATO in 1999 and has already been vocally against an escalation of the conflict and is arguably the strongest supporter of Ukraine. They're still taking further measures to increase their defensive capabilities, though. The country has spoken openly to other Western nations about housing nuclear weapons, with the US, UK and France all having weapons capability as part of the Treaty of the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. In Poland's capital, new bomb shelters are being constructed at a cost of 177 million Polish zloty, or £23.5 million. The city's mayor, Rafał Trzaskowski, wants them to be prepared for every situation. All 4 of Slovakia, Hungary, Romania and Bulgaria are assembling a multinational NATO battle group due to the invasion of Ukraine. Bulgaria says it's working to rapidly modernise its army. Meanwhile, Romania is building bomb shelters along its border with Ukraine, whilst also hosting NATO War Games, a mass training exercise involving 90,000 NATO soldiers across land, sea and air, also working with cyber and space operations. Latvia is doubling the size of its armed forces by reintroducing a military draft. In January 2024, Latvia also reintroduced mandatory national military service for male citizens. A voluntary service is open for female citizens. Another country feeling highly threatened by the prospects of war is Finland. Ukraine aside, it holds the longest land border with Russia in Europe. In 2023, Finland joined NATO, something its neighbours to the east described as a dangerous historic mistake that will weaken security across the region. Moscow has also said it would increase the risk of the conflict and force Russian officials to take countermeasures. Sweden is the latest NATO member, joining as recently as March 2024. There's less of a wave of actual preparation, but the government there is warning its population to be prepared for war. Much like Poland, Sweden has expressed its openness to hosting nuclear weapons owned by other Western nations. Over the next 12 years, Norway has indicated it will double its defence spending to around £116 billion. Norway's military staff is dwarfed by Russian forces, though, with just shy of 10,000 soldiers in the army compared to around 280,000 held by Russia. And finally, and crucially, Moldova. Moldova is already under severe threat by Russia, which has prompted the country to sign a defence pact with France in March of 2024. But the Kremlin has already issued a major threat to Moldova over the disputed zone of Transnistria. The region is officially an autonomous breakaway state with support from Russia, but internationally it's recognised as part of the Moldovan state. President of the Republic, Maya Sandu, wants to reintegrate the region into Moldova before joining the EU. But Moscow says it will consider any such move with the region an attack on Russia. Chisinau is concerned the Russian military will use Transnistria as a front to further their attack on Eastern Europe, starting with their own country. Moldova remains aligned with NATO, and NATO's keen not to escalate the situation there without prompting a deadly response from Moscow.